The other day, I did a video in Italian, and many people were asking, can you do some translation for it? And so this is really the translation of that video. And it was a response to an Italian priest, Leonardo Maria Pompei. And I'm going to title this video, The Pyroclastic Flow from Pompei. Simply because this was a priest I admired. He had a YouTube channel, has a YouTube channel, did a lot of catechesis, good formation. He has read the Summa Theologica end to end, brilliant priest, very level-headed. Most of his stuff up till his the video that he did that I firmly disagree with, and I'm going to explain why in a moment. But again, he did a live video laying bare how he has suffered as a priest. On the one hand, knowing the truth, and on the other hand, having his hands handcuffed and not being able to really catechize and teach people. Because in the church today, you're really not allowed to teach the faith. If you think about it, in your normal parish, to do an end-to-end catechesis, to instill in people the understanding of the faith. It's unpopular. And so kind of priests have kind of moved from being priests of our Lord Jesus Christ to becoming moral-dazed therapists. That's where we've moved. If you think about it, a while back there was an RTE, this is an Irish state television, an RTE program, and it was talking about funerals. And they had a few priests there, and then they had the audience talking about funerals, and it was all centered on the human side, which is important. You've lost somebody, but you're lost somebody. They're going somewhere else. They haven't just left the scene, exit the scene. They are or should be moving on to another reality. But we're so focused on the human side here. The priest forget. Okay, well, my role here, guys, is not to counsel you in your grief. My role here is to help that soul, to pray for that soul, to offer up a requiem mass for that soul, to offer up a month's mind mass for that soul. I mean, the priest has a role. He has a very specific role in the church. He's not a therapist. He acts in persona Christi. He's there to give teach the faith and show people the faith. Anyway, this priest, Leonardo Maria Pompei, he had been a few years ago, he had been pushed into this small town, and he was nearly in desperation, really, in the sense that, trying to instill into people the faith, the love of the faith, and so forth. And he starts a channel in which he's able to reach thousands and millions of people, really, well, initially, which is catechesis and so forth. But he comes to conclusion, and he says this in his live video, look, we have such a crisis in the faith that he couldn't continue to do what he is doing in the parish while he is seeing what is happening at the highest levels in the church. The confusion that is being supported at the highest levels in the church. So he's decided to remove himself from the canonical structures of the church and just to be a traditional priest, not a member of the SSPX or a member of some other society. He's just going to be a standalone traditional priest, which creates a whole lot of problems for himself, not just spiritually, canonically, but once you've lost your faculties to hear confession, then is the confession that you're offering to somebody actually illicit and valid? And that's kind of, we need to tread carefully. So on the one hand, massive confusion in the church, no doubt about it. Lots of priests have gone through this crisis. You have Robert McTague. He was on Catholic Unscripted the other day, and he also has a channel in America, and he's also talking about the crisis in the priesthood. He's a Jesuit over there, and many others. Okay, I mean, the crisis in the church is quite apparent. On the one hand, it is what it is, but how can we solve this crisis, especially so men that are going into the priesthood will be able to actually practice their priesthood and to be able to actually give the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ to the church without fear, without reprimands, without a phone call from the bishop to tone it down, to stop talking about the depositors of the faith. Don't talk about this. Don't ruffle. I don't want, because some bishops don't want emails. They don't want commotion. They don't want journalists ringing them up. They just want the quiet life. There are bishops that want the quiet life, and poor priest that finds himself under a bishop that wants the quiet life. Christ didn't have the quiet life. So if you're not able to give us the deposit of the faith, the teachings of the faith, to minister us and to guide us on the path to transforming union, just go and do something else. But I suppose what I want to say is, look, I firmly disagree with separating yourself from the canonical structures of the church. Because while it may seem good intended and you may seem extremely frustrated, Martin Luther at the very, very, very beginning, he was a little bit frustrated with the abuses that he was seeing at the church at the time. Well-founded abuses. Nephews of popes, cousins of popes being given positions in the church, indulgences being sold. There were abuses happening in the church at that time. Why did Christ ask St. Francis centuries before to rebuild my church? There were abuses. There has always been moments of tension and of decay. And we go back further to St. Peter Damian. I mean, look what he saw in the church. And so there has been, at various moments, ups and downs in the church. I suppose today it's kind of unprecedented in a way that at the highest levels, confusion is being supported. Simple as confusion is being supported. There's no other way to say that. Clarity isn't straightforward sometimes. But that aside, what is the answer to a priest that's suffering like Don Leonardo has been suffering? What is the answer to this? My recommendation is, first, form yourself, and second, work in a team, work with other priests. It's far easier to do that, because the solution to this may require 10, 15 years. And it just can't happen overnight, and it can't be done alone. And we can't just separate ourselves. I'm going to go off, do my own thing here, and not work within the structures of the church. We need to be able to push back within the structures of the church. That is the only real way that we can work on this, because Satan is very, very capable of leading us down a cul-de-sac when we go our own way. He is the master. And he's also great at isolating people. And I do wonder, Don Leonardo being isolated, is this healthy? And isolating yourself now out and to do your solo ministry, will this be healthy? So my encouragement to priests that are suffering in a diocese, leave and join a group that will support you. Leave, go to a group or to support you. As I said, many young men have asked me where to go to get formation or who to go, and I know this isn't a criticism of the diocesan system in Ireland, but guys, the diocesan system needs to pick itself up in Ireland. Yous really do. I mean, look at what's going on in our diocese. We are the managers of the decline of the faith in Ireland. The managers of the faith. We're giving rote sacraments. And again, I'm highlighting that program in RTE when we had priests there speaking about funerals and how funerals should happen and eulogies and all of this, and and the whole audience there was very much focused on the person and the family and the person who died. Of course, but what is the role of a priest? What is the purpose of a requiem mass? What are the purpose of the sacraments? We just seem to think these are incidental and we push them to one side. Most of the time, people that go to funerals, you see funerals so well attended in Ireland, but when it comes to Sunday Mass, where are the Catholics? Comes to a wedding, you see the young couple come up. Where have you been for the last 10 years while you've been living together? or 5 years while you've been living, because how many years, it's like the sacrament is the last thing on people's minds when it comes to marriage these days. It's the house, it's the mortgage, it's living together. Maybe you'll have some kids before you get married. It's the jobs, the holidays, the travel, everything. And then afterthought, well, look, we might get married, and look, there's a church beside the place where we're going to have the receptions. We'll have it there. We might even know a priest that'll do them. Like, guys, really. And then we're wondering why people don't come to Mass. We need our shepherds to wake us up. And it can be very frustrating for somebody alone that loves the faith to be to see the confusion in the church and to be just deflated. And I've known many priests that have had crisis in their priesthood and have just left. And they're ordinary men. They just said, I can't deal with the nonsense that they're seeing in the church. They just get frustrated and they just leave. Or they will medicate it some way with some other pastime. So to endure that, it's being caught in the pulpit, that syndrome of being caught in the, I'm too old to leave, I'm too old to go off something else, so I'll just invent something else that'll keep me occupied while I just do the rote masses on a Sunday and the funerals that come along, the weddings that come along, etc., etc. But guys, there's a depth to the spiritual life we're all missing here in the church. There is Christ to be encountered. There is his gospel to be digested, to be transformed, to be known. There's a living spirit of Christ active in our church. We're missing all of this. We are missing the treasures of the spiritual life. In being so meek and being so over prudent. Like in the Irish church, we're so prudent, so careful and so prudent. It's to our own fault. We're shepherding our church into the oblivion, because we're not even able to speak into the church, into society. We're afraid. So like the Father Sheehy effect. A priest comes in and gives an uncomfortable homily. You've offended us. You offended us. No. What's the teaching that Christ left us? It's very hard to give this teaching to Irish society, especially when for decades the hierarchy have been covering up the most horrific moral faults and abuses. Very hard. But we're damned if we don't give it, it seems. And priests are damned if they do give it. Either way, we're not doing the Irish society or ourselves any service. And at the end of the day, the truth that Christ left us is true whether we live it or not. It's the truth. And we have to realize that this transforming truth will transform our lives and those around us. And we need our priests to speak with passion of the Christ they've met, of the transforming process they've done. And so I'm encouraging priests to group together to form a community as such, or to join a community, because it's in a community you'll have the best impact in the church. You'll have the safeguards. I mean, a community, a like-minded community that is deadly serious about evangelization, about preaching, about catechesis. You need to join with others that are deadly serious with this project. And that may mean leaving your diocese to save your vocation. Then do it. There's no other way around it. Even if it's difficult. But guys, like anyone going into the church today, it's a very hard time. I mean, we've seen the manifestation. The gay mafia has come out of the closet finally, which is good. I think it's brilliant. Now you know. Now you know. And so it's good that the mafia has come out so that people can see them. They will do nothing in the church to evangelize. All they pander to is their ideology. What you saw in the Vatican last Saturday is cultural Marxism in all its splendor. and a priest at its head, pouting to all of the world's media. The rebellion, the Marxist rebellion on the eve of the canonization of two saints. And this cancer has to metastasize and the operation has to happen. But after this, what are we going to give to the world? What message are we going to give to the church? What theology are we going to teach? Unless we speak of our experience of Christ, we go nowhere. We need priests to actually have gone through fully the spiritual life, end to end, to nuptial union, to the highest levels, and to come back down the mountain and tell us what you saw. What you saw. Christ has always been extremely real and personal for me, but that was a gift, and just a gift that I don't know why he would do this with me. So it's like why would you abandon Christ that you've met? And why wouldn't we speak about this Christ whom we know? But I'm not a priest, so I'm just a lay person that's observing the crisis in the church that is so well spoken about by so many priests and bishops. You talk about what's the solution? The solution is the gospel, the tradition of the church. And what's at stake at this moment in time is we are afraid to give that tradition that Christ gave us, the apostolic faith, to the world. We're afraid to say to people, look, marriage is between a man and a woman for life. That the proper use of our sexuality is for procreation. I mean, we're afraid of the basics, guys. We're afraid to say that abortion is a mortal sin that will send you to hell. We're afraid to say this. We would rather do masses for creation and worry about the bees and the birds and the flowers than actually save souls in the church. That is the God honest truth I'm telling you, guy. We care more about environment than our internal environment, the environment of our soul. Hell is being transformed and being populated by our inaction. If we're going to care about environment, it'd be good if we could look at the environment of what's happening in hell, where souls are going, because we're not able to actually lead them to know Christ. And the prophecies has been given, guys. Could it be clearer to you? Fatima. No, I'm not listening to you, Fatima. Sorry, you little girlies and boys over there. No. 1960s. You didn't listen to me. You didn't consecrate Russia to my Immaculate Heart. Garabandal. Many bishops, many priests are going on the road to hell. Oh, no. Don't like that message. We are not going there. Akita. Oh, we didn't listen to the girls in Garabandal. Akita. What did Our Lady say there? And there are very strong external manifestations happening in Akita. Crying statue 101 times, the wound in the hand of the Our Lady statue, the wound in Sister Agnes's hand. No, not listening to you there either. Kibejo. No. We're fine. We're inviting groups into the church holding hands that are bringing their Marxist ideology in there. We're fine. We're being inclusive now. We're experts in psychology today. But guys, hasn't the church been warned again and again and again? It's just like we're the experts in not listening to the prophets. John Mary Foster, Mission of Divine Mercy, very controversial. But you know what? The one thing about John Mary Foster, I don't know if people have heard, he strongly felt that those prophetic messages needed to be known, but he was faithful enough to say to his followers, look, I'm not going to hear confessions because I no longer have faculties. I thought that was a very important step that he made in understanding, on the one hand, he needed to respect the bishop, but also respect the truth and speak of the truth. And heaven has been pounding the church with the truth for well over 100 years, since right, really, since before the French Revolution, really, I mean, this has been growing and growing, growing, and we have just not listened. The church has one mission: salvation of souls. The priesthood has one mission: to help souls on that road to union with God, to save their souls, to a path to holiness. That is your only mission. You have no other mission. When a priest fails to help save souls, he is lost and his flock is lost. It's pretty simple. And we can be 100% sure that the church is failing at its mission in the West in this moment of time. Utterly failing. Has been for years. Since Vatican II, obviously. With the changes in the catechism, changes in the Mass, changes in the practice, changes how we pray. And we're wondering why the world is struggling, why the church is struggling, why our families are struggling. You know, there's always going to be sin, but we should be able to give light to souls and to form, especially our youth, our children. I mean, the formative years that could be given. So many people badmouth Irish education, but I know a lot of people of an elderly generation that deeply appreciated their Catholic education and the work that so many religious did. You know, the 5-10% that you hear in the media, and your whole 90% of religious that did stellar work, excellent work, and gave their lives for the church. Ireland wouldn't be Ireland without the work that they did, because we didn't have a state to offer the services that they were giving for free at the time. Guys, I suppose this is my message to priests: is if you're going through what Don Leonardo Pompei is going through, a stellar priest, excellent, went into the priesthood for all the right reasons, and frustrated that the church is not doing its mission, which it obviously isn't doing. This is clear. This is why we have a crisis in the church that has been extremely well prophesied. When I hear this nonsense about communion, and let's have it on the hand, let's have it on the tongue. 60 years ago, there was no debate. Was it so disastrous for our spiritual life to kneel down at an altar rail and receive communion? Was it so harmful to the very essence of the church to get on your knees and to receive communion? Has it been destroying the Catholic faith for centuries and centuries and centuries? And all of a sudden the church isn't capable of saying, you've gone down the wrong path. And today a priest is saying there, this is Don Leonardo himself, that loves the Eucharist, that knows who is present in the Eucharist, and he sees somebody receiving it in such a nonchalant way, not recognizing the presence there. And you just say, wake consciousness up of who is present. It's an outward sign of something far greater. I'm just saying, when we make changes in the church, we better be pretty sure that these changes are going to lead to an increase in faith, hope and charity. And when the change doesn't, you should have the humility to say, we made a mistake, and the church has made a mistake in its direction over the last 50 years. No doubt about it. Your seminaries are emptied. Your religious communities are emptied. Your parishes are emptying. Your society is collapsing. You're aborting the future. You're importing labour to fill your aborted population into the West. Your God is money, and the church is there just sitting in the background, backseat, as where are we going? Look around society. I mean, Ireland is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and look at where we are. Hundreds of people taking their lives. The drug epidemic that is unprecedented. Never before have we consumed as much cocaine in Ireland as we're doing now. But anyway, I go on tomorrow too long. It's a passionate topic, but I wanted to kind of speak into that phenomenon, and I pray for Don Leonardo, but the path he has taken isn't the solution. The solution is to work in the church, even though sometimes it can be a personal crucifixion, but to group with others, like-minded saints, future saints, work together with them, join a community, and to tackle it together, because that is the only way. God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.